Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Room with a View of the year. I can't say this enough. I'm so glad it's 2021. Good riddance, 2020. I'm Benjamin Samuel. I'm the managing editor of Bomb Magazine. Bomb was founded in 1981, which means that for the last 40 years, we've been delivering the voices of iconic visual and performing artists, as well as writers like the amazing and incomparable Brontez Purnell, and also Bruce LaBruce. Both of these guests tonight are prodigious in a multitude of disciplines, and so they're really perfectly suited to join us here at Bomb's Room with a View. We're thrilled to be celebrating the release of Brontez's new collection, 100 Boyfriends. To quote some of its glowing reviews, 100 Boyfriends is a vibrant, saucy, dishy punk diary that features a unique mix of humor and aching humanity and just the right amount of vulgarity. We feel so lucky to have three of the stories, or three of the 100 Boyfriends, in the most recent issue of Bomb, or winter issue. You can find the issue and Brontez's stories in print and online at bombmagazine.org. And you can also find Brontez's book, which you should order if you haven't already. It's on bookshop.org. We've got links in the chat, and it's phenomenal. Before I introduce Brontez and Bruce, there's just a quick bit of housekeeping to get through. By now, many months into this socially distant nightmare that we're all still stuck in, you're all probably more familiar with Zoom than you'd like to be, but please do take note of the chat feature. You can post comments throughout the event. We'll also have an audience Q&A later in the evening, so post your questions there and comment in the chat. In fact, if you're so inclined, you could post a message in the chat now. Say hello to Brontez and to Bruce. Let us know where you're watching us from. And also, again, we'll have links in the chat section so you can pick up copies of the book. So now it is my pleasure to introduce Brontez and Bruce, both of whom, as I mentioned, are extremely accomplished. So I'm only going to read a small excerpt of their prodigious biographies. Brontez Purnell is a writer, musician, dancer, filmmaker, and performance artist. He is the author of a graphic novel, a novella, a children's book, and the novel Since I Laid My Burden Down. The recipient of a 2018 Whiting Writers Award for Fiction, he was named one of 32 Black male writers of our time by T, the New York Times Style magazine, in 2018. Bruce LaBruce is a filmmaker, photographer, writer, and artist based in Toronto, but he works internationally. Along with a number of short films, LaBruce has written and directed 13 feature films and has had a number of notable film retrospectives, including one at the TIFF Bell Lighthouse under the auspices of the Toronto International Film Festival, and one at MoMA. His latest feature, Saint Narcisse, is currently on the festival circuit and will be released internationally this year. His new photography book, Death Book, is now available, and he has another book of photography called Fixations coming out later this year. And so, without further ado, Bruce will now come in to give Brontez a proper introduction. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Bruce and Brontez.
Hey, how's it going? Here am I on? Am I supposed to be talking now? I'm going to introduce, my little introduction of Brontez is, well, I guess we met when he was in his band Gravy Train, and he was performing in Toronto at an amazing club night called Vaseline, which was done by our friend Will Monroe, the late Will Monroe. And yeah, it was an amazing performance. I think he was naked. I remember I bought a pair of Gravy Train, uh, like a G-string, I think, or some skimpy underwear or something. And yeah, and we've been friends ever since. Um, so uh, that's all. That's my introduction. So where is the bitch?
I'm right here.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Actually, you're like you don't remember, but we actually met in Sweden in 2004.
What?
Yeah, like it was I was in this Gravy Train was playing, but your movie was showing. There was some queer film festival alongside there, and I was in this like it's the first of many weird San Francisco art
You
porn.
weren't there? No, I was there for the Stockholm International Film Festival, I think.
Okay, yeah, and
Yeah.
this movie I was in
I was.
called Arcade Trade was there,
Oh.
and you came in and you were like, weren't you in that movie? And I was just like, Bruce LaBruce, oh my god! But yeah, it was a long time ago. I was thinner, my hair wasn't gray.
Well, join the club. I wore this mask for you because of the deep South realness of your work, and later I'm going to give you a virtual gum job, but I'm going to take it off now because it's like fogging up my glasses. Yay! And also I can drink my Crown Royale now too.
Ooh.
Yeah. I just started, don't worry. So oh my God, my first question, I just finished your book late last night, and I was enthralled by the whole thing. And also, I do my research right at the last minute before an event like this. So I saved your movies and watched 100 Boyfriends and
Wait,
the
hey,
Ed Mark
just sitting right there. I'm doing a thing.
and the Ed Mark documentary as well. And but yeah, like the book is like I told you, I think it's next level for you. And the book that it reminded me the most of was my favorite Flannery O'Connor book, which is her short story collection called A Good Man Is Hard to Find. And yeah, there's like, I don't know what it is. It's not just stylistically, although there's something about that, but it's the way, it's the character observation and the characters. I mean, it's these closely drawn characters who are so like, so many freaks and kind of like the kinds of characters that you never read about in fiction, and just like really and you just write in a way that that is really rare to find this way. Like it's just really honest writing, and you write about people that I know so well, and you're one of the few like contemporary authors that I just feel like I could either be a character in your novel or I know exactly like what you're saying all the time. But anyway, first of all, I want to say, why is your name pronounced not pronounced Bronte? Because I'm, from Canada and we speak French up here, some of us, and so it would normally be pronounced Bronte, and then you could be the new Bronte sister.
I literally, so many people want my name to be Bronte all fucking time. I have no idea where my name comes from.
Yeah.
Of course, my first name is Justin, but there was like 17 other Justins at my high school because it was the most popular boy's name in 1982. And so I was like, fuck, I got sick of being called Black Gay Justin. And coincidentally, there was another Black Gay Justin that went to my high school. So I thought, oh, I have this middle name that just screams Black and gay, Brontez. Why not just go by that and be completely singular? And so it stuck. But I think it's just because, I mean, I'm
And you don't know
Alabama.
the root. You don't know the roots.
I have no fucking clue.
And I love that you don't know your African roots either. It's like that's when somebody when that one character, that snooty black boyfriend of the guy that you were fucking, and he came home, and was he who asked? No, it was what somebody asked you what your one of the characters asked you um what part of Africa you were from,
Oh
and
yeah,
you
the hooker.
and you were like, I don't know.
I was like, Alabama.
You said Alabama, right? Is
Yeah,
Alabama East
it's not
Africa or
France.
West Africa?
Is what?
Is Alabama East Africa or West Africa?
Well, I took that DNA test and I'm pretty West African, so
Oh, um, yeah. So, what do you like? I mean, all those your 100 boyfriends, and you say they're like ghosts. Like, has this been kind of like an exorcism for you? This writing this book and
I want to say so, but then no, because I want to say it's more like a survey. It's a survey. I mean, realistically, these people never really leave you, right? Like the
yeah,
ones that make the deepest impact, they're always kind of like floating around in there
yeah.
somewhere. And also like this book is also like it really is like a large auto fiction. It's a composite of like me and my friends like stories or whatever. But then I don't
I
know.
just
Wow. Huh?
I just want to believe that it's everything happened exactly the way you wrote it.
I mean, if that's what you need to get through it, by all means, sure. Like you can do that too, but that's kind of not the case. And
But the thing is, you don't. I know that you don't need to make things up, because I know whether it's a composite or not, everything in the book really did happen to you at one point or another, or you
or,
did.
or they yeah, or it definitely happened to one of us.
Right. Yeah.
We but I remember like right when I was in the middle of writing the book, I was at Steamworks, and a friend of mine that's a manager there. It's a bathhouse,
Yeah,
which I
we have one. We have one here in Toronto too.
yeah, but places that I've been going to that place since I was like 24, and like now like yeah, I'm 37 and 38. Like I was having sex with men that were in like their 50s and 60s at the time. And it was my manager told me that this one guy who used to be there all the time, this guy I used to have sex with all the time, like had died. And it's one of the like three men that I've had long standing sexual relationships only at that bathhouse that I knew of that died. And I was just like walking around there just thinking like, fuck, like I've had so much sex with that person. I don't even know their last name, but I've like feel like I've had this relationship with them and they're just kind of gone. And then part of me was just like, damn, like one day, when am I not gonna be here? And someone's just gonna remember me as that guy they used to fuck there that's just kind of gone now. And so it was just kind of like this haunting feeling. And I don't know.
Well, bathhouses can be very like it can be. There can be a lot of ghosts and zombies walking around in bathhouses, like really kind of like zombies, like in a hypnotic kind of like in a somnambulistic kind of state, which is what I kind of made my gay zombie movies about that. But I had the exact same thing in the 80s. Like there's guys that I would have, it almost felt like I was in relationships with them, because every time I went to the baths, I would hook up with them, but I would never ever see them outside of the baths. But we were like total like regulars at the baths, like randomly, And then during the whole AIDS, the 80s, it was like they would just disappear, and you just assume that they died of AIDS.
No,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's so haunting too. Cause I mean, these men were also, they were strangers, but they were like some of like my teachers. I was never like the charming type that could go to a bar and like get laid. So it was
Oh, me
always,
neither.
yeah, like,
Oh my God, we're so the same. I could only get laid at the baths, really.
yeah, like when it's very direct or whatever. And plus, like, you don't have to spend money on alcohol. You can just like go and just like get it done and like leave and stuff. So yeah, there was definitely that. And then that's a big part of the book. But then also, like, I don't know, 100 boyfriends also, like, only a fraction of the story is actually true cruising. Like, most of these stories are about continued relationships and,
Mhm.
like, those lines of communication for
Well,
the
I
time.
love that because at the end of almost every story of a boyfriend, of a, or pseudo boyfriend or sort of boyfriend, it was almost like at the end, um, it's like, okay, see you next time. Or, you know, or I'm going to see, I knew, or you'd say, I knew I'd see him again, even though if something really horrible happened, or if it was like really awkward, or if it was really gross or whatever, you'd still be like, oh, I'll see you again. It reminds me of in Boys in the Band when they go through all that, the night of all of like, you know, bitching at each other and tearing each other's apart and tearing each other's hearts out. And at the end, Harold says to Michael, see you, call you tomorrow, even though they totally eviscerated each other. That's a very gay homo thing.
Oh, no, for sure. Like, total, I don't know. I think it's inherent that, I don't know. I think there's inherent abuse in all types of relationship. We suffer insults to character all the time, but like I don't know, we're still linked to these people. So
Yeah.
it feels.
Um, so I was telling you, yeah, the Flannery O'Connor.
Who's
Uh,
it's funny you say that. She's one of my like favorite writers, by the way, since seventh grade. Like she was like a
well,
lot of like the Southern Gothic writers, like
yeah, I was going to ask you about that too. Like oops, my hand. Um, but first, let me say, that story where you go with that nice man that's driving you um, down in Alabama, and you go to the sort of bunker behind your grandmother's house to because your father had that beautiful coat. I love this story so much. He had that beautiful was it houndstooth
yeah,
coat, what, green and yellow,
pan, yeah.
uh, and it's so vivid, and and he said that you figured he would leave it to you because he wouldn't give it to you, and you find it in this trunk along with the guns, with your great great grandfather's gun. This is also so familiar to me too because I grew up in a farm and we had guns, and I wore my father's clothes, raided his closet all the time and wore his clothes. But it's like the coats. It was almost like the coat of the Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dream coat or something. It's like this beautiful coat that has so much significance for you. And anyway, that story in particular was very Flannery O'Connor to me.
Oh yeah, that like, she was her and like Tennessee Williams and a host of
And
horror.
Carson McCullers.
Like yeah,
Carson,
oh
Carson
yeah,
McCullers.
like as much as I'm influenced by like like the niggerati, all this Baldwin stuff, no one ever suspects like there's a huge lineage of racist, alcoholic Southern writers that I love just by way of like growing up in Alabama. Like they give you their literature all the time, and I remember I think I was in seventh grade. I was in seventh grade, and we had this little reader, and Good Country People was in it. And I remember the girl next to me being like, I don't get it. It's just a bunch of people in the country being mean to one another. But my head was like blown. I was just like, this is like the funniest, awesomest shit I had ever read in my entire life. Like, literally, just like this light went off. And like, of course, it like stuck with me too, because it's just like, I don't know, like, those stories are always kind of there. And I don't know, when you're dealing with kind of rural settings too, like there's isolation and kind of cruelty, like are things that are just kind of go hand in hands, like they're kind of served up very very dryly. And so
Yeah.
I always love I know I love playing with that, especially like in eras where I don't know, like we pretend that this is a more PC era. We like to pretend that this is a more PC era. I think the world is as fucking brutal as always. But
Yeah.
this,
Sometimes it seems that that's a pretty, the PC thing is a pretty thin slice of of culture, you know. I mean,
No,
the culture at large is just like whatever, you know. They're not really concerned with all those rules and regulations, and you know.
it's always fucking ancient Rome in this motherfucker. Like everybody want to see fucking motherfuckers thrown to a fucking lion and shit. Like it's entertainment. So, but yeah, but I do like to see. I like to see characters at that moment where like their orbit is completely warped, you know, and that moment from where they decide to like, you know, like kind of readjustment of the orbit after the big event, you know, because I think that those are kind of like the true moments that like stick with us, you know, kind of like
Yeah, the one story about isolation that really sticks out for me too is the character who goes to the north of California and to the marijuana. So the, you know, he's what
early retirement.
right. He's what there's like the only building is where they dry the marijuana, and he's actually sleeping in the. It almost reminded me of the Unabomber or something, like in this shack in the middle of nowhere, you know. And he was that character is so like I don't know, so kind of world weary, but still engaged with the world and kind of like relieved that he's out of the city, and it's not like this cliche of getting back to nature or something, but nature is there, and he's kind of taking it in. And I love, you know, my line. I love when you said that the stream nearby running through the river was
A fussy creek.
fussy, the Fussy Creek. Yeah, like you have turn of phrases and words in your book that are so fresh. You know, it's like it's a like literary, but turns of phrase and the use of adjectives and that are completely fresh that I've never like come across before.
I'm a beatnik superhero, god damn it. So are you.
Indeed, indeed you are. Um, what one of my other favorite stories is, I mean, uh, you know, each one you can almost see them being movies in themselves. Like each one is so vividly drawn. I wish almost that you know you would take some of them and extend them into a whole novella or something. You know, each story. But the one that really hit me hard was the you know that kind of on again off again boyfriend that you had who kind of who's a meth head, and he kind of goes, you kind of through your experiences with him and like um, over the years, like hooking up with him, you kind of trace his kind of gradual kind of like descent into oblivion. Um, is that kind of based on is that a composite or is that based on somebody that you actually knew or had a relationship you had? Because we all know all those people.
Oh god, that's based on that's
So
based
many
on
people.
so many boys I've loved. So
Yeah.
many boys I've loved, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and yet, you know, and yet you're kind of still, I mean, it's very, you're almost like a caretaker on a certain level in that story, you know, but he's still, you know, I think you mentioned to me or somewhere recently that you were kind of over, you know, having a meth head come over as a trick and you end up like helping him look for the boombox that he stole from you.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, don't freak out, babe. We'll find it, okay?
You're both looking for the boombox that he stole, right?
Oh god, I know. And there's just I don't know, there's so many, you know. There's so many, it's like so pervasive too, or drugs are so pervasive, you know. And also being like a recovering like alcoholic myself, it's just I don't even have any judgment anymore, you know. I'm so used to dealing with it and having methods for deal with it. It's just kind of like we go on with it. And also, I don't know, it's just, a lot of men, I think it really just comes with the territory or the trauma of like having to exist as like a queer in the world, as like elementary as it sounds. Like, I don't know, a
Yeah.
lot of brothers depend on these things. And I don't know. I think I think it's I think it's short-sighted to be overly dismissive of it, or not, or I don't know, or not have a um care. And also just really,
Well, it's just like, yeah. I mean, some people are incredibly moralistic about it, or they don't even bother to kind of like figure out what's going on with the person. But that's one thing that characterizes your whole book is that non-judgmental thing. I mean, you even talk about it in the book. I mean, what's the line you use? I'm a non-judgmental, um,
willfully non-judgmental.
willfully non-judgmental. Yeah, yeah.
I think, and it's also with all this
Can you
talk
talk about?
of saying that, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to do the emotional labor of this, or I shouldn't have to do the emotional labor of that. But I think at a lot of turns in this book, I think the biggest statement is emotional labor is the blood pact you make with being human. It's inherent in dealing with people. Like, it's not saying I don't want to do emotional labor. Like in the world we live in, it's like saying I can walk in the rain and not get wet. It's like we have to caretake things sometimes whether we want to or not. So it's kind of about those kind of really, I don't know, those really hard choices. And so
Well, sometimes now though, with social media too, like everyone presents the whatever the best version of themselves, and they they there's this unrealistic expectation that they want someone where everything is perfect and they don't have flaws and it's just this perfect relationship and stuff. And I mean, it set up all these unrealistic expectations for people, and you know, and people, I talk to people like on Grindr or something, and they talk about, oh, I'm a really together person and I have all these interests and everything, and then they come over and break out the pipe, and it's just like, I'm like, what? That's like, where did that came out of left field, but whatever.
this one kid was talking about, like, I was talking to him and he said he was like a musician and a healer and he had all this Erica Badu jewelry. He gets over here and like this kid was so ghetto. He didn't even have a baggie for his meth. He just had shards of meth in his pocket. And so he leaves and he had spilled like an eighth of meth or an eight ball of meth in my bed. And part of me is like, fuck, like, should I sell it? Or like, do I like watch it? Like,
Oh my
just
god, that reminds me. A long time ago, I won't get into the story, but somebody left like an 8 ball of crack it fell in the through the in the crack in my couch, and he was a dealer, and then he thought I stole it, and but it just fell out of his pocket and went inside the couch, and we got into this big confrontation, and I was saying, I don't have it, and he's like, my boss is gonna kill me if I don't get that. Anyway, he ended up like pulling the fire alarm of my building. See, this is why reading your book was like felt like I felt like I was reading my autobiography.
oh no, for sure. I wrote it for us.
Yes, indeed. We're like sisters under the mink.
I remember like when I was, I was in high school. I was probably about 16 or 17. And I just came out and I was a punk. And this older punk guy had the queer issue of Maximum Rock and Roll from 1992. And I saw you and Vaginal Cream Davis. Vaginal was wearing like
Vaginal.
hop outfit and like you were like getting fucked or whatever. And I was just like blown away. I was just like, who are these people? Like, I have to get to where they are. Like, I have to get to where they all
She
over.
was fucking me. She was in drag in some kind of uniform, a female uniform, and she was fucking me with a black dildo. And then when she pulled out, she's like, she was like, "Oh, honey, you didn't do." So there was like a mudslide, and it's a video. It exists as a video, yeah. But the talking about your movie, 100 Boyfriends, which I also love. We've also both been peed on and drunk somebody's pee in movies too, because Slava did something for Gay Letter a couple years ago, and he videotaped me in his bathroom in New York, and somebody like peeing in my mouth.
Oh, I
So
thought it was like, oh, I thought you like Slava peed on you, and I was just like, I want Slava to pee on me. What the fuck?
I know, yeah, no, it's somebody else, but yeah, Slava peeing on you would be pretty ultimate. Mm-hmm. He says hello, by the way. Yeah, and also, I watched your Ed Monk documentary, which is amazing, because the other thing we have in common is, I started out as a dancer as well. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't know that.
In university, I took a major in film and a minor in dance. And yeah, I studied Graham and Cunningham. I know, right? And so when you, in that documentary about Ed Monk, I mean, it just brought it all back, because, I have that experience of the smell of the studio and like.
You are blowing my fucking mind right now.
I know.
Okay, like.
I know. It's like, well, okay, I'm going to blow it even further, because one of my main dance mentors and an amazing teacher of mine, her name is Marsha Blank. She's listening right now.
She's right there.
And, hi, Marsha, and her husband, Lenny Goldstein.
Marsha! Phonique! Phonique!
She was, and she was Ed Mock's first studio manager.
Me and her, she like hit me up and was like, telling me this, and I was just like, I was really blown away. She has a really amazing archive of pictures from Ed.
Yeah. So she's listening to that. But isn't that weird that, I mean, all these connections are kind of blow my mind, because the dance thing is very specific, for anyone who's ever seriously done the dance thing. It's like, it's very specific kind of people and psychology and a scene that's like, if you haven't experienced it, it's hard to describe what it is, but the documentary really captures it, actually.
Plus, I think if you're a part of, again, like we're talking about such alternative scenes anyway, like the scene that Ed Mockin was this very like avant-garde experimental like sect, just like kind of like your movies, like punk rock, just like it also makes a lot of sense that we would all know each other. Like it shows, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're a very particular coven. So
yeah. And Marsha was also a backup dancer for the Pointer Sisters. She toured with them. I always love it. So talk to me a little bit more about, have you done any like porn? Because no, you never.
No, it's so scary to me. Honestly, like I honestly never ever watch like just gay porn in general. Because it's so like there's something about too, like when you look at like Falcon or Bijou, like anything that's like made in a studio with lights in an era where like people have all this phone technology. I like amateur stuff shot in a fucking parking lot with someone's camera phone. Like that's what I watch. Whenever I watch like porn where it's like two muscle guys like in some like studio and there's lights and stuff, I feel like I'm watching a 30s MGM movie. It just feels satirical or something. And so I can't
but there was a lot of great avant-garde porn in the 70s.
I watch straight porn.
Yeah.
Because it reminds me of the porn I watched growing up. In fact, I've located all the porn that my parents like had. Like my parents were fucking crazy. Like I don't know why they did this, but they kept the porn in with the cartoons. Like they didn't hide the porn. It would be like Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Afro Erotica Volume 4. Like there was this one I used to love called the New York Babes. It's about this all-girl baseball team that like goes to a disco one night and they all have an orgy. The women end up pegging some dude, and I remember seeing that being like, you can put things in your butt if you're a dude, huh? And so,
Wow. How old would you have been?
um, probably like 6 or 7. I feel like I had
Wow, that's
watched my first.
early education.
I watched my first porn around 4 or 5,
Wow.
because well, it was the era where we would get dropped. I come from a huge family. I have like 40 something cousins. And so in the summertime, we would all get dropped off at my grandma's house. And like our grandma like had to like do stuff and work. And so our caretakers were our youngest uncles and oldest cousins. So it would be like, 10 to 12-year-olds watching all of the little ones. And
Yeah.
there was there was always access to porn. It's funny too, because one time my grandmother caught us watching a porn, and she didn't yell at us, she didn't do anything, she just went and took it out of the VCR player, and she just goes, these people are actors, and like she left it at that. And that always kind of left this really intense impression with me.
Wow. Well, the thing is, in a way, I mean, that avoids like trauma and like and everything, because it's just something that exists. And if you shame and guilt people about it, like if she had shamed and guilted you about, and made you feel guilty about watching it, it would have had worse repercussions than just like being kind of matter of fact about it. I mean,
Yeah, she didn't. She didn't reprimand me. Now look at my life.
but kids today, they,
Oh, fucking.
um, parental controls are a joke. I mean, 5 and 6-year-olds know how to get around all that stuff. I mean, they can see whatever they want, really.
It's so different too, to think that like my nephew can just literally pick up his phone and watch any type of crazy fisting, scat, whatever. Like fucking like the stuff I watched as a kid just feels like romance novels compared to like what goes on these days.
I
And
know my introduction to porn was my older brother had copies of William Burroughs' Naked Lunch and Henry Miller's Tropic of Capricorn. And that was my introduction to porn.
ooh, how
Like, very highbrow. Yeah.
No Skin Off My Ass was the first like gay thing I ever saw though.
Really?
Yeah,
like pornish type thing.
Yeah, I was 17, and for whatever reason in Huntsville, the next town over, there was like this little small indie section of this video store, and they had all the John Waters movies, like these weird avant-garde like plays that were on tape, and there was a copy of No Skin Off My Ass for whatever reason. And so I saw that and I was just like, oh my God. Like I'd never seen like two guys do that much ever before. And so
And one of them was me.
yeah, Mr. Licking peanut butter off the booty hole. Damn. Wow.
Oh dear. Yes.
How did you make that money with like grants from the government?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, it only cost like $2,000 to shoot because it was on Super 8. And then the blow up to 16 costs like 12,000. So it cost 14,000 altogether. And even then, people in the zine scene called me a sellout because I made a $15,000 movie. They were like, "Oh, he's so Hollywood now." But yeah, it was just
is the reason why I am not so successful. I don't know how I fell into this shit. Like I wish I had some other fucking identifiers. I cannot escape it. Punk, it's not the music, it's its followers that I hate. It's like that Jesus paradox. Like, but here I am and here I'll stay.
Well, I mean, your band, The Younger Lovers, it's like, you can't really peg it in with punk, but it's kind of unclassifiable. I was watching the videos last night and I was trying to figure out what kind of genre you would put it in. And it really is unique. I mean, I can't really even, like you were saying in your tour diary in the book, in 100 Boyfriends, when you have the tour diary at the end, and sometimes they would just like slot you into with bands that were completely different, or like they didn't even, your booker didn't really know quite how to book you, or
It's definitely so funny. Even then, like I started that band in 2003 and I called it that because I was like a hooker, right? But now that I'm older and the boys in the band are getting younger and younger, I'm kind of just like, oh God, like did I make a mistake? Because there's like my bandmate Ezra, and he joined the band probably when he was like 19. And I remember I would meet him in the Mission to give him money for shows, and he would be skateboarding with like his 19-year-old skater buddies, and I would hand him a wad of cash. And he's really sweet. He always kisses me on the cheek, but I could just see his little friends being like, "Why does Ezra know this creepy old gay dude, and why is he giving him money?" And I was kind of like, "Oh fuck, it's like happened, like, damn." But I mean, if Sonic Youth can be Sonic Youth for 50 years, certainly we can be the Younger Lovers. I
yeah.
get.
What about the Colombian roadie? Was that based on a real character?
Yes.
Ah, that was a sweet relationship because you guys were. It was kind of a this open relationship where you'd always be fucking each other, but also everyone else, like when you were touring around. But then you'd always end up together at the end of the evening, or but you'd also fight like you were like boyfriends, and I really like that.
Oh gosh, Lord, I know. I officially don't fight with people anymore. I
Mm.
feel like that was somewhere about 4 years ago was the last time I decided to have that like knockdown, shootout, lustful, fiery, blah blah blah. Like I like
Mm.
to just lay in bed and have someone be like, "Oh, honey, would you like some like chicken tonight?" I'm just like, "Yes, dear, please." Keep it like that. Like that. That's how you know you've matured.
Um, the other story I really loved was when you're sitting in the cafe in San Francisco, waiting for someone who's standing you up, and you're listening to this conversation between this older guy and this 20-year-old, and the 20-year-old's just blah 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 going on and on and on about nothing, and you're like, how could you even like you know how could that guy ever get a blowjob with the boy won't even shut up for long enough to stick your dick in his mouth,
Much. Plus, also, I don't like when I was younger, or maybe I was just a really corruptible young guy. Because whenever I was on a date with like an older guy, I was always just like, "Yo, like we don't even have to go to dinner. Like you can fuck me right now. Like it's like fine, right? Like."
I know you were like saying like you were on the menu basically.
I was the menu. Fucking man, like that was the whole fucking point. Like,
Yeah. So
and I'm glad I had that foresight because I'm just like, yo, you're gonna want to exploit this youth and beauty while it's here. Because I burned the candle at both ends. It's not gonna be here for long. You're gonna want to get it now, and they did. And yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I am not a twink anymore. So it's
well,
nice.
that's what being young is for, really.
Yeah, fucking use me.
So what about your dancing? You're still doing your choreography?
It was I did my last piece this time last year. There was this thing in San Francisco called the Fresh Festival, and the wonderful woman who ran it, Kathleen, recently passed away. Rest in peace. Um, and so because of COVID, there wasn't one this year. But I'm still looking for money because there's this Sylvia Plath short story called Johnny Panic in the Bible of Dreams, and I've been trying to turn it into like an evening length dance piece for like 4 years now. I can never find the money to do it, but right before all of this COVID stuff happened, that was the last thing I was working on, was getting money together for the film aspect of the dance, and other stuff. But I think, once this year is over, I'll probably get my bearings and it'll probably happen sometime like next year. Also, I
Were
was like, I
you,
haven't really been to classes and stuff, but I still love dance as a
you miss it, right?
I do miss it. I always kind of miss it. I think my dance company started after Gravy Train ended, and Gravy Train more or less, I think, was kind of like this theater troupe. And so once I started just
Yeah.
going back to a regular rock band, I was like, I missed theater. Like I always miss theater. There's just something.
Although that story, oh my God, in your book is devastating. The one about the actor that has a kind of nervous breakdown on stage, and
Yeah,
he goes to he goes to stage to upstage. No,
right.
does he go upstage or downstage?
He
He
goes
has
up.
that upstage and just puts his hands over his face and stands there for like 15 minutes, and he's drunk, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I love that story because he used to give advice to young actors, saying, you know, they'd say, "I'm afraid of showing myself," right?
Yeah,
And
I'm afraid of being watched. And he's
of
like
being watched, and he said, "No, you're afraid of people watching you being watched." Right?
noticing yourself being watched.
No, yeah, yeah. And then the same thing, he started noticing that, and it like made him self-conscious, so he couldn't act anymore. Is that based on something that happened to you, or?
I think just like any actor, and also I think it's kind of a metaphor for coming out of deep alcoholism,
Mm.
where like the shift is like, the shift. Anytime a shift goes from deeply internal to, oh shit, like I notice the world around me and I make a ripple effect in the world around me, or like like Adam and Eve eating the apple, just like knowledge of self can be a really, really, really heavy thing if it's something that you've been avoiding for a long time. But then, I don't know. But I personally also believe that like knowledge need not ruin paradise as long as we're able to think through it. But I think with that character, it's that first stage of him kind of noticing and drawing back a little bit. And so
Mm.
I think that was the best. That was how I handled it.
It's weird because when I don't know, the way you write, it's so compact and kind of like, um, what's the word? It's economical, that uh, it feels like, even though it's a slim book, there's like, really, there is like 100 stories in it, and each one seems like I said, like it's like a little novella in itself, because you go through this kind of journey. I know that horrible word that's in the book, right? Going through a journey. But you go through these journeys with these characters, and I don't know, they're so well drawn and so economically drawn that it feels like you've read, you know, Atlas Shrugged or something,
Well, the collection
or
together,
War and Peace.
the collection together, I was originally referred to as the boyfriends. So they
Right.
all kind of like fit next to each other.
Mm.
But then, that part got condensed to just the prose poetry part.
But and then it kind of veers into prose poetry in the middle. I find, and then at the end, kind of goes into diary mode. But so can you imagine? So what about the novel?
Novel?
Yeah. Do you have like a novel percolating in your head? Do you think the novel is still relevant? I mean, the idea of writing a novel. Would you write a novel? Do you have
Oh,
one in your head?
like a new novel?
Yeah, like a novel, like I guess maybe I'm talking about a. Could you imagine taking like one story of one character or one of the characters, or something in the book, and turning it into something? I guess I'm saying more like I don't want to say a traditional novel, but you know what I mean? Like I said, you could, each of those stories feels like a novel. So would you ever consider writing like an Atlas Shrugged type novel? I don't know why I'm fixated on Atlas Shrugged. It's it's Ayn Rand's birthday today. That's why.
Oh wow, cool. Fuck her. So I probably not, because the thing about it is,
I know I hate Atlas Shrugged too. I don't want to give the wrong impression. Anyway, go on.
like with 100 Boyfriends, it's like the book before that was Since I Laid My Burden Down, which was like just like a traditional one-length novel. But before, my first book was Johnny, Would You Love Me If My Dick Were Bigger? And it was like a collection of short stories. And so with 100 Boyfriends, I totally wanted to return back to the short story form, just because I love it, because you can be promiscuous with it, like it's just a very promiscuous kind of thing. But ultimately, I'm writing another long form novel right now. It's
I guess that's what the question was.
a
Yeah. And what do you think about the novel now? I mean, is it do people read? I mean, yeah.
That's a good question. I just feel like people are just like, oh, you're a writer, blah blah blah. But I just feel like it's not what it would mean like in the 70s or 80s or something, where you're just like this indisputable god. Like, we really do live in a world that's like very like 140 characters, Twitter, let me be on my way. There's, I think, even like some type of like political reason why I chose short stories. But also, I do think there's still plenty of people that love an immersive form, and this is a totally immersive form and something to kind of like, I don't know, get yourself lost in, and I don't know, therapeutic, a way to just
But
kind of.
there's something about the like there's something about that in 100 Boyfriends where you speak, like I said, it's economical. So it seems more like a book that even people with limited attention spans could read now, because it's very pithy, it's very precise, it's very economical. So it's like, I know there's readers out there who still read like Atlas Shrugged, but a lot of people, a lot of kids, it seemed like it's daunting to read like Dostoevsky's The Idiot or something, like a really long form novel.
So I remember like the last thing I tried to read, because I was just like, I haven't read anything in a long time. I want to really challenge myself. I tried to read Ulysses, and I
You
was
said
just
you read what?
I was like, I tried to read Ulysses, and I was like, this guy is drunk. Like, this is some drunk dude.
Yeah.
Put it down. I didn't even want to admit that I thought that out loud. But it's when I do read, I like children's books, and I also am really into like, like biographies and stuff. And oh yeah, like right now I'm looking at the Andy Warhol Chelsea Girls book that I shoplifted from the MoMA in New York. Like, picture books like that. It's so funny. I was shoplifting the book, and this older, like hip white lady at the cash register like spotted me, and I was like, oh God. But she looked at me and she just gave me the thumbs up. So I just like took it, and like I was there that day for the Yvonne Rainer retrospective, and
Oh my God. Yeah.
I shoplifted books. So it was great.
Speaking of, yeah. Did you ever have any encounters with like those kinds of dancers from that era besides Ed Mock, like Martha Graham and all those, amazing.
Not Martha Graham. I took classes with Anna Halpern. Let me tell you this.
Ah,
I got kicked out of an Anna Halpern piece.
oh, so spill it, girl, spill it.
I was like, It was so fucking weird because I got invited to do like the parades and changes at the thing, and the head guy comes up and he was like, "Well, Anna says that she doesn't really like your hair." My hair was blonde and like blue at the time, and she was just like, she said that he said that it was bothering her and that maybe I should dye it black before the show. But meanwhile, there was this hippie white bitch with dyed pink tips and shit. And I was like, and then the second rehearsal, like I had on this dangle earring, and like the guy was like, "Well, Anna says that she doesn't really like your earring. Maybe you can take it out." Meanwhile, there was this other faggot that totally had a fucking earring on. And it was just like, and plus I was the only black person there. And so eventually the guy comes up and is like, "Well, Anna says that maybe we'll move you out of the piece. Maybe you can be the paper bearer in the piece and you'll bring the paper for people to rip." And I'm just like, I'm not bringing no goddamn paper for these fucking honkies. And I'm like the only black person. Fuck Anna Halpern, that old ass bitch. I'll fight her. Like, I was so mad. Like, do you understand what level of fuck up you have to be to get kicked out of an Anna Halpern piece? They don't even dance. They don't do shit. And so, yeah, like there was that. But Yvonne Rainer, that was way cooler. Like,
Yeah.
I said to Yvonne Rainer, like, yeah, like I live in the Bay Area and I totally like I go to the Anna Halpern classes, and Yvonne Rainer just gives this look. The second I said Anna Halpern, she just kind of rolled her eyes. And I was just like, like, because we put these great figures in history together because of proximity, when in actuality they were all fucking careerists. There's no way these bitches liked each other. They were all fucking probably hated each other, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Speaking of birthdays, it was Langston Hughes' birthday yesterday, I think. Yeah, yeah. What? Any thoughts on him and his work?
My mom always kept a book of his. There was always the huge omnibus or whatever of all the Langston Hughes poetry. That's probably some of the first things that I've read from the ages of 5 on. Like my mom was very into like Black literature. Like she made me read Native Son when I was like in 6th grade.
Wow.
I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings, Go Tell It on the Mountain, and Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes was my favorite. In fact, I used to scribble his poetry on my mirror in my bedroom. It's still in my teenage bedroom back in Alabama. There was one poem where he says, dig and be dug in return. And I remember putting that on my mirror. I loved it.
Wow. But are we supposed to be responding to these people that are like commenting on the bottom? Because I never do Zoom and I really don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, all you people who are like leaving comments at the bottom, we're definitely reading them. At least I am. But I don't know whether I'm supposed to be responding to them or not. But anyway.
I've just rejoined. Sorry to interrupt. There are questions in the Q&A if I want to go through them.
But I don't know whether I'm supposed to be, when people say, "Oh, fuck you, Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged. Why are you talking about Atlas Shrugged? Fuck you." Am I supposed to respond or just ignore?
Well, that's the chat. There's actually in the Q&A, and yeah, do as you will with Ayn Rand. So
I only bring her up because she wrote a long book. I always use, it's like that joke in Boys in the Band. He goes, when Emery goes, I'm still reading Atlas Shrugged, which I began in 1912.
Well, Brontez, you're on your computer, so you might have easier access to the Q&A. Do you want to just
can we go? Should we go in there?
You want to just click that and answer the questions that you feel like answering?
Okay, wait. Okay, do you write to or feel the responsibility of documenting a specific messy queer underclass that the assimilation gays want to erase? Where's your OnlyFans?
Oh, that's a two-parter.
First of all, you mean fans only? I think that you can get so much porn for free. And plus, all of my OnlyFans content plays in museums. So as a form, it's just beneath me. Or just text me and I'll send you the videos. As far as documenting a specific messy queer underclass, I don't know if I feel a responsibility, but it's just essentially like you write what you know, you know.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny too that when you write about a
But
march,
messy is the key word. Yeah.
yeah. Well, see, when you write about,
We are messy.
yeah, when you write about the things we write about, it's like you almost have to like, it's like, no, marginalized people always have to explain themselves more and give more content so we are not judged. Meanwhile, you can read something like Call Me by Your Name. Nowhere in it do these people ever talk about class analysis or privilege. It's just understood that these are rich white people. They never say,
I hate
oh,
that movie.
yeah, I'm living in a villa in Italy with my older lover because I'm a privileged white fuck. They never have to say that. But when I'm talking about like messy queers, dykes, drunks, in order to not be seen as like, you know, a truly immoral character, I have to like, you know, explain everything, like document every feeling, everything, like just lay my soul bare. So,
And then he turns out to be a cannibal. I mean, come on. But no, actually, since he became a cannibal, I'm kind of more interested in him. I always hated him before, but anyway.
Yeah, fuck him. So are we going?
Brontez. Somebody told me today or yesterday that they were on a Reddit chat, and some girl that went out with Army Hammer said that he liked my movie LA Zombie because of the necrophilia in it. Anyway, that's just a sidebar.
I still have not read anything of that. Like, and I just don't want to.
Oh, never. It's not important. Anyway, somebody asked, Jess Tell asked, is there a collaboration between you two? I got me and you, not me and Army. I think we've been talking about something, haven't we? But we shouldn't reveal it, I guess.
Oh, we don't have to talk about it yet. We're gonna keep it very,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nascent. Yeah. Ooh, Brunta, somebody asked, anonymous and attendee asked, what is queer sex appeal to you?
It's complicated.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one thing about both your video, the movie 100 Boyfriends, I mean, it's like the diversity is insane. The diversity of messy, pervy queers is absolutely astounding. Like, it's amazing. And you have that one split screen where everyone's speaking in different languages, and yeah, I really like that.
That's diversity is the appeal for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, like how most gays say they have a preference. I feel like I have a scorecard with a flag of every country in the world, and the closer I get to like checking them all off, like that, that is kind of how I feel.
Totally, that comes across, yeah, in the video.
For sure. I think it's just by proximity of working and growing up in a bathhouse when I came of sexual age, and just like seeing such a diversity of men at once, as opposed to
Florian Hetz was in there. Did you fuck him?
Wait, who?
Florian Hetz.
Oh, Florian Hetz. No, like me and Florian are like trying to fall in love. Like,
I know you would make such a couple.
No, yeah, I totally fucking love him. He's so intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
I think he wants to like.
No, you get that way when you work the door at like Berghain for like 5 years or whatever.
I know.
That was his whole.
I can't it's really hard with German dudes. I like going to Germany because you can actually be a black bottom there. In America, like white dudes never have any fucking dick for you. I think it's just because of like, you know, guilt over slavery. I don't know. But once you get to Germany, fucking men white dudes whose American counterparts, like their American counterparts would never ever talk to you. Like, you can get so much white dick there. The problem with Germany though is they don't get my jokes. Like, the humor is so different. I feel like none of my jokes really land. And so
yeah,
that's the hold up.
They do have a sense of humor, but it's buried really deep. Sometimes it's worth the effort. Here's a loaded question. Have you seen or know about, of course you know about it, slave play And do you have thoughts on that?
Oh, of course. Like I talk to Jeremy Harris all the time.
Oh,
And when I saw it, I thought it was the most brilliant thing ever. And I feel like kind of in that lineage because I think with a lot of Black boy writers, a lot of Black boy queer writers, they do this fucking really uninteresting thing where all of them are just like, oh, like James Baldwin, and it really kind of stops there. And it's like if you're not trying to inherit the crown of James Baldwin, you're seen as a heretic. And so when you write like Black nonsense, kind of like Jeremy does, kind of like I do, it does seem like kind of like this, like really almost like this godless thing you're doing. But in a way, we're kind of like giving like this fuck you to our Black American princehood and saying, no, we have a deeper, crazier, more fucked up analysis. Like there's ways in which our generation, I don't know, we have as much of a critique of like both our lived Black experience and the hegemony,
uh,
whatever.
hegemony, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of like white supremacy. It's just like I think it's a really, really, really sarcastic take. I really do think it's.
It's. I mean, I didn't know much about it, and he was on the Daily Show last night, and he's so cute. But I looked it up, and I was reading the description of the play, and it sounds mind blowing.
It's
Yeah.
hilarious. Like it's everything. It's like some of it's funny, some of it's funny, some of it's boring, some of it completely jumps off the fucking cliff. Like, and then but there's also great care there for like as intense as the subject matter is, you can tell that he took a lot of care in places. And also a lot of like the fucking tight, like respectable Black church boys really hate it, which I love.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think he did a good job.
Cool. Uh-oh. Someone asked advice to a young writer.
You better fucking have rich parents.
Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, well, this is interesting. Has your creative writing process changed since you haven't been drinking alcohol?
You know, even when I was like a huge drunk, I never wrote drunk. You know, that's something when I'm writing,
I'm the same. I can't, if the minute I do like take a single sip of alcohol or like do any kind of drug, I cannot write or work or even come up with ideas. Like I'm totally not in work mode at all with that shit.
yeah. So it's like, no, my writing process has stayed the same, pretty much. Short burst of 20 minutes 5 times a day.
Oh, say it again. Short. That's how you write?
Yeah, I do burst of 20 minutes 5 times a day to space it out.
Wow. I should try that because I'm having trouble like sitting down. Like my attention span is like that of a nap now.
So like I'll wake up, like have like my morning caffeine and breakfast, write for 20 minutes, go do errands, blah, 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 come back, write 20 minutes, then just go chill, do whatever, come back to it. And you know, I say 5 times a day. Sometimes it's 4, you know, but but right before I go to bed, do my last 20 minutes. Like I treat it like reps at the gym.
Wow, that's so fascinating. I'm gonna try that. Okay. What else do we have here? Did you ever work with Sarah Shelton-Mann? I don't know who that is.
Oh, I love Sarah. Yeah. I mean, I never worked for her. I never danced for her, but like I saw her around for years. We perform at the Fresh Festival and stuff. And I know I love her because she's another Southerner. She grew up in Tennessee. And so I remember us bonding over that. 'Cause I grew up about an hour south of Nashville. But
you did?
Yeah. Like I'm at the top of the state in Alabama. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Or Alabama, as they always call it. Did you call it Alabama?
Never.
In Holly, in Mildred Pierce, uh, Vita's singing a song and she calls it Alabama, and I was like, who calls it Alabama?
They fucking did that. They did that in. There's a Langston Hughes poem where he says that. I think only Northern people call it
Yeah, that,
Alabama. The same way only people on. No one in California ever says Cali. You only ever hear East Coasters say Cali. So. Right.
yeah.
Oh, I
Um,
like this question. What does queer mean to you in 2021? Basically, a straight white woman. Like that's who's taking over queer. Let's be quite
I know, right? Yeah, yeah. It doesn't really. I mean, something that blew my mind. I sent it to you last night. I think was there's this group emerging in Britain called the LGB movement, and they've dropped the T.
Oh my
And I know it's strange. Um, but maybe I don't know. Maybe LGBTQI doesn't mean anything anymore either. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know, man. Them turfs is really sitting down in it. They are just like, we are turfs. We are surfing turfs. Fucking.
I said, why don't LGBT people just pretend the T stands for Tina?
Ah! Ah! Oh no! I would hope. Am I supposed to like? There's a lot of. But wait, can you?
What else? I really don't know how I'm navigating here. Let's
Wait,
go back to.
there's like Brontez. Can you talk a bit more about the rejection of Black American princehood, particularly interested in the negation of expected expectations of respectability, homogenous assumptions around self-love, and interracial dickcapades?
Dickscapades. It's
Oh
like ice capades, but
my
with dicks.
god. Um. Well, I don't know. I think it's anytime you.
But you seem like a prince to me, or a princess, and so does the slave play writer. I mean, there was a. Uh, I think that's the new princely or princessly um, model.
I think we're kind of just like the new bad boys because I mean I think it's just like with any particular like race of anybody. There's kind of like these standard disingenuous like kind of beliefs that you have, and it's I don't know. It's just so many people in fucking horrible off the rack H&M wear fucking reading horrible platitudes to you about what it means, what self-love means, and how you are supposed to like, compose yourself. Whereas I think a balanced person should be as in touch and own their self-loathing to understand their self-love and be able to wear it all. And
Yeah.
so I think, we kind of we like challenge those things. And
Who was
sometimes
it? Somebody said recently, yes, I'm self-loathing, but it has nothing to do with me being a homosexual.
no, for sure. And I just think really too, like within a lot of like Black literary circles, people like openly like praise people like Zora Neale Hurston and the Langstons and the Baldwins, but also like if the modern day Baldwin or Zora were sitting in the room with the people that praise them the most, they would be scared shitless. Like Zora Neale Hurston like wrote about making a pact with the devil, laying naked at a crossroads and stuff. You know what I mean? Like James Baldwin was in Europe fucking hella white boys. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
was being all types of light-skinned homo. These were not in their day, they very much reject an easy morality. And so do we. And so I think it's I think it's easy for people to forget these things but the fact that I don't know. I feel like a new wave of like Black writers that kind of make everyone uncomfortable. And I think that that's really a beautiful thing. It makes me feel great. So,
But what about? I mean, you know, as a punk, it's counterculture. It's like underground. I mean, I kind of miss the idea of the underground, and um,
same.
and now everything is like you talk about in the book. I think somebody's saying to you, or is it in the movie? Oh well, are you going to write like go write a night work for Netflix or something? And you know, you know what I mean? And it's like as if it's just like the only path, or that's the ideal of success, is to have a Netflix series or to be writing a
I
Netflix
feel
series.
like having a Netflix series is basically like the Hollywood version of OnlyFans.
Of what? Of OnlyFans. Oh, you froze, baby. I think I'm the only one that isn't frozen. Oh no.
Oh, uh, well, this might be unfortunately the right time to cut in and wrap things up. Hopefully Brontez can come back in and say
Yeah.
goodbye and good night to everybody. But for now,
we've gone kind of past the
yeah.
the allotted time, right? I wasn't really. We were just like gabbing.
Well, it was such a fascinating conversation. I mean, that was like you guys have such a tremendous rapport with each other. It
But
felt
we were
like
so
we were just
filtered.
eavesdropping.
We were so filtered.
Oh yeah. Well, Brontez, you're not here in the room anymore, but thank you, and Bruce, thank you. That conversation was wild and fascinating, and I love what you guys were talking about with the emotional labor and it being a sort of blood pact that we make with humanity, and also like the promiscuity of short stories. It was just such a great evening and a great way to kick off the series this year.
Yay!
Yeah, yay.
But get that bitch back.
Yeah. But
I want to say goodbye.
you all can find Brontez's stories in the latest issue of Bomb. His bookstore, or his book is available
There he is.
in bookstores.
What happened to you?
Brontez.
Was I the one that paused?
I missed you.
Unfortunately, yes. But we were just wrapping up. Do you have any final words of wisdom to share?
I want you to make a final statement to America.
A final statement to America. I have so much, many new goodies coming in the new year. I have plenty of candy for all of you. I love you all dearly, and yeah, text me.
All right, baby. It's such a pleasure.
Well, thank you all. Y'all. Thank you, Brontez. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, everyone. Please go to our website. Please go to your local bookstore. Order Brontez's book. It's phenomenal. And also, it's Bomb's 40th anniversary this year. So join us. Sign up for our email list. You can find Brontez's stories on our website. We've got a lot of wonderful things in store. And we hope to see you again soon. Until then,
bye. I love you, Bruce.
Stay safe.
Love you. Bye.